The Trump administration has just dropped a political bombshell, a new warning that federal workers should not expect back pay during the ongoing government shutdown. For more than 4 decades, back pay has been a guarantee, a small comfort for the hundreds of thousands of employees forced to stay home without pay. But this time, the White House is breaking tradition. According to a memo circulating from the Office of Management and Budget, the administration says Congress will have to decide if those workers deserve to be paid once the shutdown ends. It's a stunning reversal, especially since it was Donald Trump himself who signed a 2019 law ensuring workers would be reimbursed after any funding lapse. But now, with nearly 750,000 federal employees caught in the middle, the message from the administration is clear: pressure Congress or risk losing your paycheck. Trump defended the move at the White House, saying there are some people that don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way. Those words have already sent shockwaves through Washington, sparking outrage from workers and lawmakers alike. What was once a bureaucratic standoff is now turning into a battle over livelihoods, and the Trump administration seems ready to play hardball. Inside the White House, the pressure is deliberate, and it's coming straight from the top. The new memo from the Office of Management and Budget lays out a stark message: federal workers will not automatically get back pay when the shutdown ends. The memo, prepared for OMB Director Russ Vought, argues that the law guaranteeing back pay isn't self-executing. In simple terms, it doesn't happen automatically. Instead, Congress must specifically approve the money as part of any new funding bill. That interpretation shocked lawmakers on both sides. After all, it was Trump himself who signed the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act back in 2019, the law designed to protect workers from exactly this kind of uncertainty. But now, his own budget office is claiming that law only authorizes payment, it doesn't require it. It's a subtle legal argument with massive real-world consequences. For more than 750,000 federal employees, it means the difference between eventually getting paid or losing weeks of income forever. Critics say the memo is a power play, a calculated move to pressure Democrats into cutting a deal to reopen the government. But inside the West Wing, aides describe it differently. They call it leverage. At the White House, President Trump didn't hold back. Speaking to reporters, he doubled down on the administration's stance, making it clear this was no mistake or misunderstanding. There are some people that don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way. Those words have already sent shockwaves through Washington. To many, it sounded like a direct threat, a signal that Trump was willing to use the paychecks of federal workers as bargaining chips in his fight with Congress. For his supporters, it was classic Trump, a businessman president taking a hard line to force movement on Capitol Hill. But for critics, it was something far more alarming, a calculated attempt to punish public employees and shift blame onto Democrats. Political analysts say Trump's comments mark a turning point in the shutdown fight. What began as a dispute over funding has now become a test of power and of empathy. As the president defends his decision, hundreds of thousands of workers are wondering when or if ever they'll see a paycheck again. The fallout on Capitol Hill was immediate and fierce. Within hours of the memo's release, lawmakers from both parties were scrambling to respond, though not everyone was on the same page. Democratic Senator Patty Murray didn't mince words. She blasted the administration's move as another baseless attempt to scare and intimidate workers by an administration run by crooks and cowards. Her message was clear: the law guarantees back pay, and the White House is defying it. Across the aisle, Republican leaders struck a more cautious tone. House Speaker Mike Johnson admitted he hadn't fully read the memo, but said some legal experts believe it might not be necessary to repay workers. Still, others in his party weren't so sure. Senate Majority Leader John Thune pushed back gently, saying, "My assumption is that the furloughed workers will get paid." The mixed signals exposed growing tension within the GOP itself, between those willing to back Trump's hardline tactics and those quietly worried about the political blowback. Meanwhile, legal analysts are warning that the memo's reasoning could spark lawsuits. They argue that the 2019 law leaves little room for interpretation. Once the shutdown ends, workers must be paid. If Trump's team moves forward, the courts could quickly become the next battleground. And as the political storm intensifies, one thing is certain: this fight is no longer just about a shutdown. It's about power, precedent, and how far the president is willing to go. Behind the scenes, the legal debate is turning into a chess match, one that could define how far presidential power really goes. At the center of it all is a memo drafted by Mark R. Paoletta, general counsel for the Office of Management and Budget. His argument: the 2019 law Trump signed doesn't automatically guarantee paychecks once a shutdown ends. Instead, Paoletta says it only authorizes the government to pay workers, meaning Congress still needs to appropriate the funds in a new bill before any money can actually be released. It's a fine distinction, but one with huge implications. If accepted, it gives the White House unprecedented leverage during any government shutdown, allowing it to control when and how back pay is granted. Critics, however, call it a dangerous reinterpretation of the law, a legal loophole being used to punish workers and pressure lawmakers. Constitutional experts warn that this argument could crumble in court, pointing to clear language in the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act that says federal employees shall be paid after a lapse in funding. But for now, Trump's legal team seems confident. The memo's language is careful, technical, and designed to withstand challenge, at least on paper. Whether the courts will see it that way is another story. And as both sides dig in, one question looms over Washington. Is this about legal theory or raw political power? For the hundreds of thousands of federal workers now caught in the middle, this isn't just politics. It's personal. Paychecks have stopped, bills are piling up, and families are being forced to make impossible choices. Some are dipping into savings, others are relying on food banks or second jobs just to stay afloat. The uncertainty is spreading fast. From TSA agents to park rangers, air traffic controllers to military families, everyone is asking the same question: will we get paid? The emotional toll is mounting. Workers who once believed their jobs were stable are now feeling betrayed by the very government they serve. Many say they've been through shutdowns before, but this one feels different. This time, the administration is openly questioning whether they deserve to be compensated at all. Union leaders are sounding the alarm, warning that morale has hit rock bottom. They fear this could trigger mass resignations, long-term staffing shortages, and lasting damage to essential services. Economists are worried too. Each week of shutdown costs billions, draining productivity and public trust. And while the fight plays out in Washington, it's everyday Americans who are paying the price, not with politics, but with their livelihoods. In Washington, the shutdown has become a full-blown political standoff, a tug-of-war between the White House and Congress, with millions of Americans stuck in the middle. Democrats are holding their ground, demanding new funding for healthcare subsidies to prevent insurance rates from skyrocketing. They argue that without those protections, families across the country could face higher premiums within weeks. But Republicans, echoing Trump's line, insist the issue can be handled later, once the government is back open. Neither side is blinking. The president's team believes the shutdown pressure will eventually force Democrats to cave, or betting public outrage will turn against Trump first. Each day that passes raises the stakes, both politically and personally. Behind the scenes, frustration is building. Staffers describe tense phone calls, slammed doors, and late-night strategy sessions. Lawmakers are exhausted, federal employees are furious, and voters are growing impatient. The longer the standoff drags on, the more it feels like a high-risk gamble, one that could define Trump's leadership and reshape the balance of power in Washington. Because at this point, it's not just about reopening the government, it's about who wins the fight to control it. As the shutdown grinds on, the question echoing across Washington is simple. Is this a masterstroke of political leverage, or a gamble that could blow up in Trump's face? Supporters say it's vintage Trump, the art of the deal in action. By threatening to withhold back pay, he's tightening the screws on Congress, forcing Democrats to make concessions or risk public backlash for prolonging the standoff. They call it strength, strategy, and negotiation at its peak. But critics see something far different, a reckless move that crosses moral and legal lines. They argue that using the paychecks of federal workers as bargaining chips isn't leadership, it's cruelty. And if lawsuits pile up, the administration could soon find itself fighting not just political battles, but legal ones too. Public sentiment is shifting fast. Images of struggling families and unpaid service members are dominating the news. Even some Republicans are quietly warning that the optics could be disastrous if the shutdown drags on much longer. So is this Trump playing 4D chess, or just pushing the limits of power too far? For now, the White House isn't backing down. But as pressure mounts from Congress, the courts, and the American people, one truth is becoming clear. This shutdown isn't just testing the government, it's testing the nation's patience and Trump's political instincts.